always questioned, have I done enough to get that contract or whatnot, where especially in the last 12 months, I'm just focusing on each day and what I can do to get better. Because if I focus on the big picture, I'm a big overthinker. I'll think about 10 different things that could happen between now and, say, next week. So if I'm thinking months down the line when I need to be getting a contract for next year, the few weeks leading up to that, I'm not going to perform at my highest because that's in the back of my head, and I'm like, oh, I'm worried.
Today's guest, Matthew Johns, is a very impressive young man. He's an elite basketballer. He's played in the US college system, development squad for the Brisbane Bullets in the NBL, still making his way in the world of basketball, but he's a man well beyond his years. We talk today about how you can build your mental strength, the importance of working on your mental health as much, if not more, than your physical health. He told a great story about how his mum saved his life that gave me absolute goosebumps, which I'm sure you'll enjoy as well.
I'm Ian Hawkins, and this is Sport is Life. The purpose of sport, as I see it, is to see your vision become a reality, find your voice, create strong connections, and learn to trust your body.
Right, Matt, how are you going?
Good, how are you?
Very good. You're a basketballer.
Yep.
Tell us a bit about what you're up to in the world of basketball at the moment.
Well, for the past 2 years before this season, I was a development player with the Brisbane Bullets. And this year I've been a training player with them while also doing some 3-on-3.
Yeah, and you were telling me before we hit record, there's a big world of 3-on-3 out there that you didn't realise. It's just hit the Olympics, but you reckon there's a whole other side of it there. There's great opportunities for someone like yourself.
Yeah, it's huge. So the company, the Australian-based stuff, is called CLB, and they partnered with a Japanese league called XC. So we were lucky enough to win the Australian-based stuff and then head over to Japan and came third there. So that was awesome. That was the highest I think Aussie team's ever done. So won some prize money as well. So that always helps.
Yeah, nice.
Then also won some trips to go play on the World Tour, and most of the Olympic teams play year-round with each other and just kind of under a different name, as you can't play under each like nation's name. So, but yeah, I think there's 16 stops on the World Tour each year, and each weekend's worth $100,000. So the money in it's ridiculous, and traveling around Asia, Europe, like everywhere. So I didn't know it was as big as it is, and it's been cool to be a part of.
Yeah, do you see that's something that you could pursue if you don't get a regular list spot in the NBL?
I don't know, it's very new. Like my focus is very NBL wise still. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a roster spot, but training with the Bullets this year, I still believe in myself and what I'm capable of doing. And going into NBL 1 this year, I've re-signed with Brisbane Capitals, and talking to Vandy, our coach, and a few of the other boys, like that's the big focus at the moment. So hopefully have a really good year with the Caps and sign hopefully with the Bullets. If not, another NBL club, but we'll see how we go. But that's still my number one goal.
Yeah, cool. I guess 3-on-3 is a bit like the IPL and the cricket. It's like it might be good to chase money, but it's not what you really aspire to when you're growing up, is it?
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah. How old are you now?
Pardon?
How old are you now?
25.
25. So I don't know what basketball's like, but the world of sport, I've seen progressively more and more people getting their shot at a later age.
Yes.
And because careers have been extended, it's no longer, there's no longer a necessity to go in there and get the next, 18, 19-year-old, because people are playing well into their 30s. So certainly time hasn't passed you by, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like I'm going into the best basketball form I've ever been in, and I think there's still a number of years that I can play at a high level, and I believe I can be in the NBL, and I should be.
Yeah, mate, I love hearing that self-belief, and we'll dive into the mental side of it a little bit later in the episode. Have you always played basketball?
Yeah, also played a bit of footy, AFL, growing up. At high school and primary school, played every sport that took me out of school for a day. So I don't know how happy my mum was signing all those permission slips, but footy was definitely the main one. I played a year or two of cricket, got bored of that. Played boys netball at school. But yeah, it was always basketball from an early age. My older brother, Sam, he started playing obviously before I did, and I always used to go watch him and was nagging mum, when can I start playing? When can I start playing? And so it was always kind of the basketball family, and it was always bound to happen.
Yeah, and was it a natural quality that you had there that made it easier to make that transition? Like, did you tend to be naturally good at it?
Yeah, definitely. I think I had a good natural talent. Like, I'm 6'8" now, but was always tall growing up, and my mum played, my brother, my uncle coached me pretty much throughout my local juniors for my local club Tri-Boys, and there was definitely some uncoordination with being so tall and growing, but I would like to say I've always been a natural with basketball, but growing up, I definitely learned that natural talent, that natural size isn't going to be enough, and luckily to have my brother that I call him short. He's 6'2" and not as athletic as me, but he's the hardest worker I know, and he showed me how to work hard and how to get more out of kind of basketball than just my natural talent. Because there was definitely a time where I just kind of thought I was better than other kids, and I was always lucky enough to make teams. I made state teams very quickly from a young age, but watching him work his ass off and make teams that he probably might not have made it over some talented guys, but that's where I kind of started separating myself from other people thanks to him.
I love that response. I was listening to Marnus Labuschagne get interviewed recently, and he said he wasn't the most gifted kid, so he had to work really hard, but he saw a lot of those really gifted kids not get better because they would have always relied on it. So I think what you said there really stands you in good stead, that you know that you got to work for it, right?
Yeah, 100%. And like, even today, if you look into the NBL or other sports, even guys that have got contracts aren't always the guys that made state teams, national teams, juniors. It's okay, they didn't make it and they went to work, and now there's some guys that never made a state team and have been in the NBL for 10 years. So working hard throughout the years and kind of stacking those years is one of the biggest things to prolong your career and obviously make it in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. I can relate to what you said about your older brother. My older brother was very much a positive influence for me in a sports perspective, and he was always really encouraging and lifting me up and that. Like, how important is your brother been, not just for your sport journey, but for your life journey?
Yeah, ridiculously big. Like, he coaches now. He probably stopped seriously playing maybe 5 years ago. He's gotten up early mornings to train me when I've been back from America, or when I went to the AIS. He was always happy to come train me, shoot, rebound. after most games that I play, he messages me. He's always one for advice and anything that I think that I'm not doing right or can improve. He always has a different view on it that helps me kind of decide and what I need to work on, what I need to do different. So on the court, he's been a huge help. Like, as I said before, seeing how hard he works has helped me, but also the mental side of it, giving me a different view on situations in games. Like, his basketball IQ is ridiculously high, and he's able to help me where I might be just looking at a certain game or a situation in one lens, but he always kind of makes me take a step back and be like, oh no, you might be able to do this next time. Have a look at this. Be more aggressive in these aspects. So he's definitely one of the most influential people in basketball and my life.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I imagine if he's had to be a hard worker to get to a certain level, then he understands the different steps and nuances that are required to take that leap.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's good. Now, you said you were 6'8". Our mutual friend Bruce Holtgren, who connected us,
Yes.
former NBL player himself, also doing some awesome stuff now in the space of shooting coaching, and some other cool things around the world. I know one of the things that he talked about is being tall, like just some of the challenges that you know other people just take for granted, like hotel rooms and the size of the bed and all that sort of stuff. What sort of, you got any good stories around where you've come across, maybe in Asia particularly, where you've struggled with the height thing?
Yeah, definitely traveling around. I think I've been to like 10 or 11 countries, and hotel showers are always the hard one. There's quite a few that I've had to just duck in the shower because I hit my head on the ceiling, and other times the shower head's kind of at my chest level. So yeah, there's definitely things like that in Australia it's not too bad. Like, most doors I duck just in case. Like, I won't hit every door frame, but I've hit my head enough to know that I'm just going to duck just in case. So
Yeah.
yeah, just small things like that. Like, I'm lucky enough, I've got a king size bed, so that's good for me. But growing up, until mum gave me a queen, it was always a struggle and sleeping across the bed, not just down. So yeah, but I wouldn't change it. Everyone asks, oh, would you want to be any taller or shorter? And I'm very happy with 6'8", not too tall that it really gets annoying. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be any shorter either.
Yeah, very cool. You talked before around how strong your belief is, and you just like you belong at that level. Is that something that has been a product of some of those mental health challenges that you've been through, or is that like an independent thought process and just being in that space around good people who are helping you with that?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a progression of my journey with mental health. While I was in America, I got very negative and kind of down on myself, questioned if I kind of belonged. And I've definitely done that over a couple of years with contracts and all the business side of the NBL and NBL one. I've always questioned, have I done enough to get that contract or whatnot, where especially in the last 12 months, I'm just focusing on each day and what I can do to get better. Because if I focus on the big picture, I'm a big overthinker. I'll think about 10 different things that could happen between now and, say, next week. So if I'm thinking months down the line when I need to be getting a contract for next year, the few weeks leading up to that, I'm not going to perform at my highest because that's in the back of my head, and I'm like, oh, I'm worried I need to do such and such in this game. I need to score so many points. So I get that contract where now, if I just focus on, all right, I'll try and be more aggressive in this practice, or I want to shoot a certain amount of threes in this game, where those small kind of checklists are easier for me to keep calm and keep um, following than the big picture goal. Obviously, I still do think, okay, well, in 4 months, hopefully, I will have signed a contract for next year. But even if that doesn't happen, there's so many things between now and 4 months that I can go after hard in practice or certain games just locally that is going to help the big picture. So by doing that, I get that self-confidence and in a result, I'm practicing better, I play better. So that's kind of how I've looked at it now, where that wasn't always the case. I was very, all right, what am I going to do in a year and a half when I go off to college? What if this happens? And then I start thinking, well, maybe I won't play, or not believing in myself. And then I'm not shooting as well, not practicing as well. And then it snowballs very quickly in my head.
Yeah, that's such a great description, and I think the listeners would take that as great advice for their sport, but more importantly, their life. Is you need to have that big picture view, but
Yes.
you very much need to come back to a simple process to follow, so that you can go, okay, these things are in my control, and get those done.
Yeah.
It takes out all that stuff in between, which is the millions of different thoughts going in all different directions, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like with basketball and life, I just try and take a day at a time, because I can't change anything that's going to happen tomorrow, and I can't change anything that I did yesterday. So all I can change is what I'm doing today, and then that starts stacking days good. And in that long run, then that's when the big picture normally pays off.
Love that. And it's still with that big picture in mind, but just not focusing,
Yes.
just focusing day to day. So good.
Exactly.
So tell us, like you've said, one of the reasons to get you on is that you've had your fair share of challenges around your mental health, your overthinking, anxiety, these sort of things. Is that something that you look back that was present like all your life, or did it really start hitting home as the basketball journey started up and having those options of going to college in America and that basketball focus?
Yeah, looking back to it now, so I was diagnosed with mild to severe depression, and same with anxiety in 2018, I think it was, in my second year at the University of South Dakota. And I had some struggles while I was at the AIS. I was 17, doing year 11 and year 12 in Canberra, away from my family. So I always just put that as being homesick. Looking back to it, where I am now, and kind of the mindset I have, and going through all that, I think that's when it might have started to kind of come into my head and life. But it wasn't until my first and second year in America that it really kind of started coming to the forefront of my life, and realizing that I had to do something and seek help.
Yeah, and good on you for doing that, because it's definitely necessary. Do you kind of just backpedal you now?
Yep.
Because I think back to when I was making uni choices, and one of the options for me was sports journalism. It was in another city, like I would have had to stay there. I didn't get the marks, but I sometimes wonder whether I self-sabotaged to not get the marks, so I didn't have to make that decision, because I was actually really not convinced of myself I'd be able to go and do that.
Yeah.
Is that something you can relate to? Was there part of you that was like, oh, do I really want to go and take this trip away from what I know?
Not from my college decision, but I remember top age under 16s, the year Bruce actually coached my big country team.
Yep.
I remember it was the night before our second weekend for the tryout and kind of the pointy end of the stick, the team was pretty much getting picked from that team. And I remember going to my mum and saying, "Oh, I'm not going tomorrow. Like, I don't care. I don't want to." And like, I didn't want to go, but obviously in my head it was, I'm worried I'm not going to make it. So if I don't go, that's my decision of I'm not making the team, not someone else's. And luckily, as parents and mums do, she forced me to go and got me to go, and obviously made the team with Bruce being the coach. And it was an unbelievable nationals with him and with all the other boys. And I have so many memories from those camps and sleeping on the floors with all the other boys in the stadiums. And nationals were lucky enough to be in Geelong, so my whole family got to watch, and I had a pretty good nationals. And all of that might not have happened for an hour decision and conversation I had with my mum, because internally I was just worried that I wasn't going to make it. So if I decided not to go, then that's better than being told I wasn't good enough.
Good old mums, eh? They
Yes.
push us to things that maybe we think we can't do.
100%. Yeah,
Oh, really cool.
Yeah, she's definitely done that a few times. And just kind of before I was diagnosed and when I was younger, where obviously I didn't have the ability to see things in different views and understand it. Obviously, that's what mums are for, and she always helped me make decisions or calm down for something or just be more relaxed as any 15, 16-year-old going through state stuff. It can get a lot, like, it's very close to being in a professional environment at that young. In my opinion, no one's really ready for it, because it's such a harsh build up to nationals. Like every weekend we would drive into Echuca, Seymour, Shepparton, Bendigo, and obviously I wasn't driving, so I'd just sleep in the car. But it's a lot for someone that age, so that's what parents are for. But yeah, mum's definitely been. She's always had my back and my best interest at heart.
That's awesome. Just thinking back now, and some of the listeners will relate to this, is if they've got young athletes or sports people in their family, their children, that's often the case. Is like the psychology of is it the not wanting to go is not because you don't want to go. It's the thought of, well, what if I go and I fail? What if I go and I'm not good enough, and all of those things. It's that self-doubt element. So now that you know what you know, and also from that experience with your mum, what advice would you give to those parents on the best advice for a young athlete at that time to help them to be able to have the belief, but also do it in a way that's not going to be make them completely anxious and have an adverse effect?
Yeah. I also think there's a very fine line of pushing your kids to do something that they don't want to do. Obviously, I know a few situations of that happening as juniors, and now they don't play sports or basketball at all. So the thing that mum would always do for me is she wouldn't kind of make a decision. She never said, "Oh, you're going tomorrow." Like, that's what's happening. She more just talked to me, made me feel better, purely just was there for me. And kind of she taught me how to slowly talk about what was in my head, because as kids, you see kids throw tantrums and whatnot. And in my understanding, that's because they don't know how to communicate their feelings.
Yes.
So by just being there for your kid, they will slowly understand that obviously all kids know your parents are going to care for you no matter what you do, but be there. And that's all my mum did, was be there and listen. Like, she never said that, "Oh, you have to go tomorrow. I'm driving you all this way across to Victoria. You're doing this for her." She was like, "I understand that you might not want to go, and if that's the case, you don't have to." But then kept on talking and kind of convinced and to me that, "Oh no, I do want to go. I'm just worry.
Yeah, so good. And the key word there is listening, because
Yes.
people even at that age, right, teenagers will find the right answer, but not by, again, exactly what you said, not by forcing and telling them what they have to do. In fact, if anything, they're going to resist that completely, but just give it a safe place to, mate, so good. You can tell you've learned a fair bit over this journey, being able to communicate those emotions. So your mum sounds like an absolute legend. Has she come from sort of a counselling or a teaching background, something like that?
Yes, she's a primary school teacher.
Yeah, right.
She's just retired last year, but so she understands kids. She's done that for her whole life. I think she had 20 or 30 years anniversary teaching a few years ago. So that's always been her, and she's amazing at school. I also worked as an education support teacher at her school, so I've seen both sides of that part of her, obviously being my mum and day in, day out at home, and how she handles certain situations, if it's me, my brother fighting me, my sister, or whatever. And then on the flip side, kids at school. And her biggest thing that she says is it's about having the relationship with the kids at school, so they feel like they can talk to you, they feel like it's not just that student teacher relationship, that there's that understanding. And her listening to me, yes, I know she's my mum and I always can talk to her, but I didn't talk to her for a long time, I think because I didn't understand, like, that she would just listen and not tell me what to do. And that's the biggest thing that I try and tell people that aren't sure about how to help someone with mental health problems is sometimes we just want someone to listen. We're not asking for answers. We're not asking for you to tell us what to do. Like, we feel lonely. We feel like we can't be heard. And having someone to listen to is the biggest thing that most people are trying to find.
Well said. It's in a coaching environment, the work that I do, it's exactly that. It's people need the ability to externalize.
Yes.
Often I'm not telling people what to do. I'm just letting them get it out of their head and maybe just redirect them on words that they've just said.
Yeah.
And I think what you've said there is such a great piece of wisdom for the people listening. And what I also love is that you sound like you've been on quite a journey at a young age, and well, I know from the conversations I've had with Bruce, this is something you do want to be able to pay forward and share with the world. Do you have a sort of specific focus for that? Is it young people in particular that you want to work with, or just mental health challenges in general?
I kind of everything and anything. Like, I'm not too sure what I want to do, what it looks like, but after working through the first couple of years of my mental health journey, I started to realize I feel confident enough that I'm in a better place that I can now start to share my story. And I've always said, if it helps one person, then it's done its job. Like, I'm not trying to get my kind of story to the whole world. If that happens, amazing. But I'm just trying to help the people that are in the shoes I was back then. So by simply telling people my story, my tips, and I always say this to people, that the way I handle things now and back then might not work for you, but I'm more than happy to give you those tips that helped me back then.
Love it. Now, what I also know is that when you get to that point where you want to help people, it's usually come from your story, like you mentioned, but it's usually come from having to overcome some pretty dark times. So you went to, you said Uni of South Dakota.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about, like, what were the triggers leading up to you sort of having those darker days, and how did that unfold for you?
Yeah, well, my freshman year was pretty good. Unfortunately, our starting five-man senior, he broke his foot just before the season. So I actually started I think it was something 19 out of 26 games for the year. So I had a really good year. I had my ups and downs, obviously, being away from my family. I knew one person going into that year was our assistant coach, Brad Davison, fellow Aussie. That was kind of the connection that got me there in the first place. But so my first year still was ups and downs, balancing school, practice, games, road trips. Like I think before our Christmas break, we missed, I think it was 13 school days out of the last 15 or something ridiculous because we were on the road and that was going up to finals. And I've never enjoyed school or have been great at it, but I knew that I had to do what I could, one, to get into college and two, to stay eligible. And it wasn't until my second year I went back and uh, while I was at the RAS, I had my appendix out and found out I had a heart condition. So I had a heart ablation back then. And so when I went back for my second year, started getting some chest pain. So had to kind of go through all those tests again and get it all clear. And luckily, I later found out that it was just anxiety, but I was connecting it to a few years ago. I had a heart condition and that's come back. So it wasn't until then, well, after that I realized that I thought it was just, must have just had weird heart pain that kind of wasn't caused by anything. And then I remember, I think it was around November 7th and 8th, I started having trouble sleeping because my mind would start going pretty crazy, and it got to a point where I would go out for like a late night drive, and there was a lookout near campus that I'd just go and kind of listen to music and sometimes message mum or something because she knew that I wasn't sleeping, so she'd text me at 1, 2 or 3 in the morning, and sometimes we'd get a reply. But so I'd go have a drive, kind of, thanks to my teammate Caden. He would always lend me his car because I didn't have one over there. But that kind of started being my outlet. If I couldn't sleep, I'd just go for a drive and most of the time come back feeling better and kind of more relaxed. But it got to a point where I didn't sleep for 2 nights and at all. And I'm still shocked how I was able to function at school and practice. But on that third night, I went out for a drive as normal, just couldn't sleep. And there was a bridge that I always crossed to go to the lookout. And this night, I didn't kind of plan it for the days before, but I kind of saw it and I kind of made the decision that I was just going to drive off it. Luckily, I had my phone holder with my phone on it near the steering wheel, and just out of the blue, my mum messaged me. It was a very random message. I think that I was probably 10 seconds away from the bridge, and she messaged me, and it kind of got my focus on something else, and I pulled over and looked at it because in my head, some way I thought she knew what I was doing, but it was purely a random text message. And the fact that she knew I wasn't sleeping in the past couple of weeks and she could message me and I might be awake saved my life. And I pulled over and kind of stopped there for 15 minutes and just kind of cried and let everything out by myself. And as relieved as I was at the time to get the message, I was also scared because I didn't really think I could have those thoughts about suicide. Like, I always kind of thought, oh yeah, I want this to be over and whatnot, but I'd never thought I would have the ability to almost kind of go through with it. So after that next morning, I realized that I needed to seek some help and called up the school's psychologist and booked an appointment that day, luckily. And went and had I think it was an hour and a half appointment, and the whole time, that was really the first time that I laid everything out. Obviously, the good thing about psychologists and therapists are that I find that because they don't know you, they don't there's no judgment or anything. And that's why I never really opened up to anyone else before, because I always thought there was going to be a judgment. Because if you look at my life on paper, I know there's hundreds, thousands of people that wish they could have done what I've done and be where I am today, even. And why should I complain about those things? But in my opinion, that's where people have it wrong, and that's generally what happens. The more successful you get, or the more places you get to travel, it creates another element and more things to kind of have those mental health problems. So
Wow.
after I saw the therapist that day, it was, I remember it was a Tuesday, and at the end, she was like, yeah, I want to diagnose you with severe depression and severe anxiety. And in my head, I didn't think that would change my outlook of it. I was saying to myself that whatever they label it, it's not going to change it. It's still in my head. It's still how I feel. So that label is not going to make a difference. But that next day or two, it felt like I got hit by a truck getting told that I had depression and anxiety, where I never thought that that would be a thing for me. I didn't think I would struggle, but those 2 days took a lot to get through things. And going back to the therapist, I remember she asked me, how do you feel after being told that and talking for so long? And I said, I feel worse, but I'm happy because now I know we have a plan. Now I know kind of there's a path to not get over it, not beat it as such, because personally I think I'll have mental health, not problems or issues, but I always say just my journey, and I know that that will be for the rest of my life. But I know, one, how to deal with it a lot better now, and two, that it is a journey. It's kind of like just learning how to live with it, not trying to beat it, not trying to get over it, but be okay with it. Like, I understand and I'm okay with having anxiety and depression, because I know I'm okay now, and I have those tips and other people's stories that have helped me over the years, and where I can sit here today and be like, yes, I still am going through my mental health journey, but it's okay, and I'm happy as anything where I am today.
Mate, there's so much to unpack from that. Just from what you just said then, I was having this conversation with a young sports person 2 weeks ago, and it's no different to physical health. Like, you have to work on it for the rest of your life. Yeah. And people they understand the physical stuff. So they go, okay, cool, I'll get fitter, and that's helping me mentally and all sort of things. But the mental stuff needs attention. It needs constant work, or you will have setbacks. It's like putting on weight or getting unfit or whatever. Like, if you don't, there will be repercussions. And it's also, you can get injured.
Yes.
Mentally, you can have, it's like getting injured. You can have a setback. It happens, and then you've got to go through rehab, and it takes time. But we mentally tend to judge it differently because we're not necessarily seeing the same progress as we do with a physical injury, right?
100%. And I've always, after learning all this stuff through my journey, I look at it as a few weeks before I had those 2 sleepless nights, I started to have a few problems. And on a basketball court, if you roll your ankle and you don't rest, there's a good chance you're going to do ligaments or break a bone even. So if you take the time when you roll your ankle, do a bit of rehab, take your ankles to the practices that you do train in. But if you don't do anything, same with mental health, if something happens and you don't process that, you don't work through those mental issues, it's going to build up and it's going to be worse in the future. And looking back now, I don't wish I did anything different back then, because my journey has made the person I am today and has helped me mentally. But on the flip side, if I could have recognized it earlier and, like a sprained ankle, kind of caught it earlier, it may have been different. I might not have got to the point that I did. And that's what people, I don't think they still understand, that is mental health is as important as anything, especially physical health. But it is hard to recognize that. And unfortunately, sometimes, like myself, it takes kind of that rock bottom to realize that.
Spot on. Unfortunately, that's where a lot of people end up, is it's their rock bottom. What struck me then with what you said is that's what the health action plan that I've got for people, and I'm sure that it's not a completely new concept. It's something I've adapted from learning from other people, but it's understanding the things that are likely to cause it. So with an ankle injury, maybe you start to get a little bit of soreness. Maybe it's not as strong and you're not feeling like it's going to support you. Well, what are those same things for you mentally? What are those same things for you emotionally? What are those same things for you spiritually, where you start to feel disconnected from your world? Like all of those things, so that you can identify, and you also, importantly, you know what is the activity or the rehab, for whatever better word, that is going to take you back to full fitness in those areas first, right? Is that similar to the way you look at it?
Yeah, 100%. In over the years, I've done things differently, but after games now, I try and take 10, 15 minutes and actively reflect on it, so that my thoughts don't build up overnight. They don't kind of come back at the start of the next game and go, oh, that's how I played last game and it wasn't very good. Where staying on top of it and dealing with things as they come is that prevention, as in anything else. Like most guys for the Bullets or in the NBL, I know they take their ankles. Have they all had ankle problems? Not necessarily, but that's the prevention and staying on top of it physically that you need to do mentally. And I know, as I said before, I'll have to be on this journey with mental health for the rest of my life. And does that mean I can just go, I'm happy today, I don't have to worry about things? No, I have to constantly be mindful and staying on top of my mental health, so that I don't go backwards, or I don't go back to where I was a few years ago. And to say that, do I still have bad days or bad weeks? 100%. Like, at the end of the day, I am still human. Like, just because I've gone through all this doesn't mean I'm the perfect mentally, or have the perfect life anymore. And it's that constant staying on top of it, prevention, reflection, all those things help me day in, day out.
So good. And what you said there around, it doesn't mean you're perfect. It's, you still need to take the steps. And as a result of that, I'm going to guess that mentally you're stronger than most people out there, because you've overcome the challenges. You now know how important it is to make that a focus. You're not just training physically, you're not just training technically, you're continually training yourself mentally to build up that strength. And that is such a great character in, obviously, in elite sport, but also in the rest of your life. As you said, it's stuff that you'll continue to do. So how do you stay on top of it? Like, what are some of those processes that you do away from basketball, away from your everyday life, to make sure you are staying on top of your mental health for the important areas?
For one, it's definitely, I love going to the gym and working out, just weights wise. And that's always been one of my outlets as such. Going through the years back to South Dakota, I just find that kind of an hour or so, give or take, put my headphones on, and some people say that they kind of disconnect mentally when they go to the gym, but I do the opposite. I'll still listen to music, but I'll kind of let my mind go because I know I'm in a safe and comfortable setting to myself. And I know that some days it's kind of like being on autopilot. Like I'll just kind of get through my workout, and mentally I'm just kind of going through the last couple of days or last couple of weeks. And that's always been a big help. I try and go to the gym after each game because I can take that time an hour after the game. Yes, it might be late and I might not have an intense session, or I might not be throwing around a lot of weight, but it's just that um, routine and my procedure to get things out of my head or think about things that are relevant in that time. And outside of the gym, obviously I've got my parents, family, my girlfriend. Like I talk to them like when things come up, and I know that I don't have the answers in my head at that time, rather than just kind of hit my head against the wall and trying to figure out myself. As we kind of talked about before, having someone to listen to, half the time I'll start talking to my mum or my girlfriend or whoever. Halfway through the conversation, I'll be like, hang on, I just said that, and that's what I was worried about or wasn't sure. And most of the time I have the answers in my head, but it's very hard to understand some thoughts when you're not speaking them out loud to someone else.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big one, and combined with going to the gym and kind of just having my own thoughts for a little bit, those are the things that make my hard days a lot easier. Because yes, they still are hard days and bad days or bad weeks, but that's the two main things that I have that get me through that and make me feel like I can sit down and be like, okay, today was rough, today wasn't the best, but that's it. I can't change it. Tomorrow I'm gonna try and have a new mindset and attack the day like that. And if I don't have another good day, that's all right. I can wake up 2 days from now and try again.
Yeah, so good. Some great advice there. What you said there about the gym, it just made me think about interview. I think it was Dyson Daniels. He was talking about the NBA, the constant like games is that they often do their workouts after games. So they finish their game. It's like 1 a.m. They all go and do weights because if they didn't do it then, they just wouldn't get it done. And
Exactly.
and that's not necessarily you're not playing as many games as then, but that sort of drive and commitment to what you know is going to work, whether it's your basketball or other areas of life, that's huge. The other thing that you talked about there that I loved was when you're doing a workout, it's not completely switching off. It's actually giving your mind a chance to process. That's what I find I get out of running the most is, like first couple of Ks might be tough, but then my mind starts to switch off and then it starts to switch on and start to start feeding me really good stuff. And I think that's an important, whether you listen to music or not, it's allowing that mental space, not just completely switch it off, but to actually give it an opportunity. So that's great advice. I want to come back to that story because I got goosebumps through that whole thing when you were talking about your mum. To me, that's just like a great example of, you could put that down to, just a freak coincidence, but I'm just like clearly you've got this amazing connection with your mum. Like we have this intuitive connection that we don't fully understand, but I guess just watching and how many stories I've heard like this, that there's something just triggered in your mind. I know I've got to message him, and how cool is that?
Looking back to it, I can't remember what the message was, but I honestly,
wasn't important.
That's the thing. It's just one of those things that happens, and obviously I'm very thankful. And for the couple days, weeks after months even, she was my reason to keep going. Not just because she sent that message, but yeah, it's one of those weird things that always just happen at the right time, and it's always mum or like a family member, but she's always been there for me even before I knew she was. And
It's good.
that's a big thing. And I know she'll always be there for me if I do need to talk and whatnot. And hopefully it doesn't get to that point, but I know she's always sending me random messages, and it's always that see her name pop up on my phone, and it always kind of brings me down no matter where I am.
Yeah, brings you down into a good space, right? Like not
Yes.
out of your head.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess the lesson is for people that don't underestimate the power of your words,
Yes.
whether well-meaning message or comment at the right time. That's so good.
100%.
Now, I know he'll be listening to this, so here's an opportunity to share maybe some of the things that you got out of Bruce in that tour, because I know at a formative age like that, how important it is for young men to have other men that's not their dad to be able to share important messages. I think back of like there's 4 or 5 really key people at that age for me that really were influential. So I'm sure Bruce taught you some great things about basketball, but I'm sure he also taught you some awesome things about you, the individual, as well, given he's had quite a journey himself. So yeah, what could you share with the impact that he had for you?
Yeah, Bruce has definitely had a big impact on me, not just for that under-16 nationals. He was also my under-18s top age Geelong coach, and am really close with his sons Connor and Jamison. I used to live with Connor actually when I first moved to Brisbane, so very close with Bruce and their whole family. But one of the biggest things that sticks with me and has always stuck with me from that nationals is from the start he was always about having fun and making the process fun, not looking ahead and being, all right, our goal is to win the gold medal. Obviously, that did come up here and there and kind of to hold us to a certain standard in practice, but he said that this team will never be the same again. You won't, unless you do a reunion in 20, 30 years and play it at Masters tournament, and even then, the chances of everyone being here, it just doesn't happen. Like, I've played in 6 nationals. I've never had the same team. There's been a handful of each team that's been the same, but that I think we 10 players and coaching staff was for a few months for the lead up and then national. So his thing was he's always a positive guy and always has been, but making sure we're having fun, we're enjoying it. And yes, we put in a lot of hard work, and he yelled at it sometimes and to get us kind of back to that level that we needed to be. But he was also very conscious of us enjoying not just the week at nationals, not just certain games, but the whole process, because he was always saying that if you're having fun with what you're doing, you're going to do it at a lot better, like elite level than if it's a drag that you don't want to be there. So looking back at that now, every day I try and have as much fun. Every game, yes, it might be an important game, could be a final, grand final, but the reason why I started playing basketball was to have fun with mates. Yes, it's turned into a career and a job to a certain degree, but if you don't have fun playing basketball and it's your job, then maybe that it's not for you. And that's coming from under 16 nationals where we were 15-year-olds. We found almost anything fun, but he added another level to it to get the best out of us.
So good. I was listening to Saya Sakakibara, the BMX rider who won gold at the last Olympics, and she was talking about the place of optimal high performance is playful and fun and curious and so it's such an important part of success. And how often do people get too caught up in the outcome or the concern or the worry, and even people listening to this and they're thinking about their own job. You've got to find the fun. If it's not fun, then you're probably in the wrong place, and it's probably time to look at maybe changing some direction. So how is that true in the teams you're in now? And if so, that's great. But if not, how do you make sure you still bring the fun element to it yourself?
Yeah, 100%. So with the Bullets, like every Monday as a warm-up, we play soccer. Obviously, there's a few guys that are half decent, but for the most part, like, it's not the prettiest game of soccer that you ever watch, but it's kind of that disconnect from all the seriousness. And I honestly think the days that we do those things, practice as a whole is a lot better because we're relaxed. We've had some fun before and then kind of get stuck into the dirty work of practice and getting after it. And I think those days, Justin Schuler calls them circuit breakers, and every few weeks you might just need kind of an alternate for a warm-up, or maybe we have an extra training session a week because there's only one game. Let's go out and do something else to keep that fun. Obviously, have all the boys really close in that kind of family team environment, but having that fun mixed in with the hard work, the seriousness of basketball or sports in general is a really big thing. And I also look back to my 3-on-3 trip to Japan with my team, and we're not a professional 3-on-3 team. We're not professional 3-on-3 players, and that's who we were versing for the most part. And there was some teams with like oxygen tanks, physios and whatnot, and we had 4 guys there and putting on deep heat and drinking energy drinks before games to kind of get ready for it. And we'd do like kind of warm-ups and stuff, but a few of the other teams had physios taken through a very dynamic warm-up and just very serious, and we were kind of over in our space just singing as a group and kind of running up and down and like warming up. And we obviously came third, had fun doing it though. And like I still think back, and every now and again, like 2 of the other boys plays locally on a Wednesday night with me in Brisbane, and every now and again we'll catch us singing the same song we did back in Japan. That always just made us like loose for the game and kind of took that seriousness edge off it. Like we knew we were there to compete and do well, but having that fun of like, and none of us are good singers, I'll tell you that much, but like it was just that fun and kind of being close with each other and taking that step back and realizing we're in Japan, we're playing 3-on-3, like it's surreal and it's awesome here to do well, but let's have fun as well.
So good. I love that example. I remember as a youngster, a coach saying that we were playing against a team and the other team was doing all this, really intense stuff, and he goes, just like, mate, just chill out, boys, and just enjoy it. And very good. We're talking about belief before you started off at the start of the pod. You were talking about like just you've got that belief. So over the journey of going through these struggles, how do you make sure you maintain that belief? Because I'm sure you still have moments of self-doubt. That's just a given if you're human. What sort of things do you put in place to make sure you continue to have that belief and then build that belief, particularly in important moments, whether it's in your sport or in your other areas of your life?
Sports-wise, I definitely just try and put in the work. Like the more I shoot each day, each week, come game time, the better I feel about my shot. It's, in my opinion, very simple. Like if I don't go shoot for a few days, preparation. And if I don't go shoot for a few days and then I have practice or a game and I come out in the first quarter and miss my first 4 shots, I go, oh, I wonder why I'm not shooting well. Well, it's pretty easy. I haven't shot the last couple of days. I've been lazy. So just trying to do as much work as I can. And does that mean if I shoot the 4 days before a game and I'm not going to miss my first 4 shots? No, but I know if I do miss those first 4, that 5th one has a good chance as anything of going in because I trust the work. So just doing those things on a daily basis, and I'm a very big routine person. Like, I like my routine. I know what I'm doing every day. Try and kind of stack those days as they come, and that helps me in the long run. Like I was saying before, with overthinking and looking too far ahead. If I just focus on, all right, I'll get a session in today, I'll get a session in tomorrow, and then, oh, it's already Saturday, I'm playing today, and I feel good about myself.
Yeah, so good. And what about other areas of your life? Like, what sort of things do you make sure you're still feeling good about yourself?
I think mainly saying what we were saying before about having fun. Like, I think a lot of people get caught up in life with obviously work. There's 1,000 different factors that come into each person's life, and everyone's life is different. But I think the essence of life is about having fun and enjoying yourself. Like, I think if you're doing things you like, if you're around people that you love, it makes life more enjoyable and easy to enjoy it, and it makes it easier to do the hard things that, you might not want to go to work and you want to lay in bed all day or whatnot. But if you enjoy going to work, if you enjoy the people you work with, and that's going to make it easier to jump out of bed in the morning.
Love that. And it's such simple advice and simple thing to follow, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We can definitely overcomplicate things. You mentioned something before when you were talking about, like, after having that suicidal moment, you're talking about, like, there was part of you that's like, oh, well, I should be happy. Like, I've got all this going on. Like, who am I to complain? Like, who? And comparing yourself, and I think it's a really important point for us to hit home on. And I'd love your thoughts on this, because that's such a deflection from actually looking at improving your mental health. You can always look at a comparison and either feel like you're going better than someone else or worse, but that comparison, it really helps. You either have a increased belief on where you're at, or you have a decreased where you're actually thinking you're going worse than you are. So what are some of the things you've put in place to make sure it's almost like putting blinkers on, right? It's like,
yes,
I see what you guys are doing, but this is what I need to do for me, and your journey, while I am part of it, is irrelevant in terms of my mental strength.
Yeah, well, where I am now, I kind of learned it through my journey of opening up and kind of telling everyone else my story. I had countless people kind of reach out or come up to me and be like, I never realized that was how you felt, that's what you were going through. And that's why, I get caught sometimes comparing myself with other players or other people. But the reason why I personally don't try and compare is because a lot of people didn't know that I was going through all that and still do. So how do I know what anyone else is going through? And that's why, yes, my life back then looked awesome, and I'm sure a few people went, I'd love to have his life, but then 2 days later, I almost drive off a bridge. So it's like, you might see someone driving down the freeway in a Ferrari or something, but you have no idea if they're planning on crashing or what they're going through. And as a whole, comparing lives can be that kind of dangerous line of, you might feel good about yourself if you're comparing to someone else that may be not as good at you in a sports field, business field, or anything. But it also, if you're looking up and comparing yourself to someone else, it can just bring that negative thought process to you, and I'm not doing enough, I'm not where I should be, where at the end of the day, their life doesn't impact yours. You can't control what they do. You don't get any benefit from what they're doing. So if you do want to be where they are, and it's great to have goals, but to compare is definitely that dangerous line to cross.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, what you said there, the not doing enough, like it just really doesn't help at all. That's a great answer, Matt. Thank you for that. You talked about the guy driving the Ferrari. I remember a guy on my previous podcast a few years ago talking about, he just thought, if I make all the money, I'll be happy. And he said he remembers sitting there on his kitchen table, the mail came and he's opening his bank statements and he's looking at all these zeros and he's like, I've got everything that I said I wanted, that I'd make me happy, and I've never been more miserable.
Exactly.
And it's not to say, like I heard an expression the other day, it's like, money doesn't buy happiness, but it can buy you a boat so you can drive to a location that'll help. But ultimately, it's like, if you don't, the theme for the whole episode, if you don't nurture your mental health and you don't pay it attention and put in the work like you would physically, then it doesn't really matter where you are. I'm curious, when you were a young kid and you said you were like trying lots of different sports, did you have like a sporting dream or a sporting idol, and you looked up to, thinking one day I want to do that?
I think it was always mainly basketball. Like, my favorite player was Tracy McGrady growing up, and I always used to have magazines of him and watch his highlights on YouTube on my mum's laptop. So he was definitely one that I kind of looked to be, and I still watch his highlights every now and again and kind of get some inspiration for it. And he was definitely a big one. But to kind of go to who inspired me, going back to my brother, looking at what he did, where I had the natural talent, I always had the size and athleticism, and he had to do the hard work. And I think that definitely changed my outlook and mindset from a young age of, if I be half as good as my brother, his work ethic, I could do some special things. And people always say, like, I always do things for yourself, and I agree, but during my rough patches, he was a big reason why I kept on going with basketball. And I was like, unfortunately, my brother doesn't have my size or athleticism, but I'm going to take something from him and keep going. And I remember writing his name on the back of a couple pairs of shoes to kind of give me that extra motivation when I had early morning practice and didn't want to get up or whatnot. So I think personally always looked at kind of the NBA greats, Jordan, T-Mac, and all those other guys, but kind of close to home, my brother was always one person that I looked up to, and to this day still is.
Outstanding. That's a great answer, Matt. I love that. What's the best thing that basketball has taught you that's helped you in your personal life?
I would say consistent work will come out stronger. Like, if one person shoots, I know it'd be hard to, but 10,000 shots one day, it's probably is not going to help them in the long run. But if someone shoots 100 shots a day for a year or 2 years, then that's going to bring out a lot more than, I'm just going to do something really big once, where doing something small continuously and over a long period of time is going to benefit, it's going to improve you a long way. So kind of that work ethic and consistency, it's going to outlast someone doing something really big just once.
Great answer. Love that. Now, your mum may not listen to that, but if you were sharing a message to your mum about just how important she's been on your journey, what would you tell her?
I've had some conversations with her over the years, and it took me a while to kind of tell her that she was the reason that I'm still alive, and we both kind of hugged and cried for a little bit, but it's always hard to put into words what she's done, what she means to me. Like, the amount of times I've said to her thank you or that I love you and stuff, and that's the easiest way that I tell her thank you and how much she means to me, because I could write her a very long list one day, kind of what I was saying about work ethic before, but just telling her how much she means to me and how much I care for her and how much she's helped me along this way continuously, because you never can tell your mum that you love her too much or thank her too much. And obviously she'll always say, oh, I'm your mum, I'm meant to do these things, but I don't look at it that way. Like, she's done so much for me over the years that realistically, as an adult now looking back, she never had to. Like, she didn't have to drive around Victoria from under 14s till I got my license, but she chose to because she wanted to see me succeed and see me happy and have fun with my friends. And she sacrificed a lot. Like, even my dad did. Like, he had to work a lot of Saturdays kind of to fund those things that I was doing. And I was lucky enough to play for Australia. My whole family came to New Zealand when we played in Oceania, and then to Spain when we played in Worlds. And I look back in kind of the photos after the tournaments, photos after the games of all of us, and they've done so much, not to just support me, but to watch me. So yeah, not just my mum, but obviously she's been a massive person and support for me, but my whole family as well.
Yeah. So good. And it just shows the importance of having those caring people around you, and for you, even at your age, to recognise just how much they've given on the journey. It's interesting when you hear sports people in the public eye, they all say that. They all talk about their parents or other, important adults in their life that help them. So yeah, that's an awesome tribute. I imagine with that sort of upbringing, you're already thinking about your own family and what you're going to be able to make sure you pay forward as well, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, very cool. Matt, I've enjoyed this chat. To me, you're a man well beyond your years in terms of your wisdom and your knowledge. I know that's come through a lot of hard work. I appreciate you sharing so openly your story. I know there's a lot I'm going to take out of this, and I'm sure others listening will as well, to help them and inspire them to get better, not just physically but mentally. So yeah, thanks, mate.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you asking me to come on. I've enjoyed it, and hopefully my story helps one person, if not more. But last thing I'll say is you're never alone. Like, that's always what I thought, but there's a lot of people out there that want to care for you, that want to be there for you, and want to listen to you.
Well said. Thanks again, mate. Cheers.
Awesome.
Like I said at the start, what an impressive young man. Just a quick apology on the audio. We had some challenges, so that we tried to get it as even as possible after the recording, but there might be some different levels, so apologies for that. Well done for persisting and getting to the end. The lessons that Matt shared around the importance of working on your mental health, so very good. The bit I loved, and for you to add to your game plan, is to have that big picture view of where you're heading in whatever area it is. and then making sure that you don't get stuck focusing there, because that will get you into that outcome focus, which brings on the anxiety and the issues with performance, but instead come back to that clear process. What's the next thing? Be present in that, and that's where you're going to get the best results. If you're looking for some help on one of the things that we talked about, which was being able to identify the triggers of when maybe you're drifting into a hole, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, then let me know, or jump into the Sport is Life VIP club, and you'll find the Wellbeing Action Plan, which will give you all this structure to be able to map that out for yourself, get yourself back on track. Have a look at the show notes and you'll find all the information there. You've taken the time to listen to this whole episode. Now it's time to take action. Commit to one thing you've learned today and make it happen. And to avoid any obstructions, join the Sport is Life movement by clicking on the link in the show notes.